be the case.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So righto, so let's talk about what sort of income that you should be recording and presenting to the accountant. Now, so a little bit of my history. So I grew up, my family had a hotel in Gladstone and we sold that in 1985. And then all through my high school years, I worked in the hotel holidays and weekends. So I'm used to working in a family business. After we sold that, we had a gift shop and a tobacconist in Gladstone for many years. And then we sold all that up and moved to Gympie in 1994 and bought a small cattle property down here. And because of the nature of agriculture and the lack of scale that we've had, I had to go and work off farm as well. So I've had quite a bit of experience both in self-employment and working for other people.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I've had a bit of a desire to manage my money, so that I know what's going on. So then, when we talk about personal income and business income, now the fact of the matter is the people in Canberra only really want to know what business income you have created, so that you can pay your fair share of tax. What I do in the way I keep my figures is I've got an Excel spreadsheet that I created 20 odd years ago, and I've spent time refining it ever since. But on that spreadsheet, I record all of the income that comes in. So at this stage in my life, I've got a PAYG job with Regional Business HQ that's 2 days a week. I've got a little bit of farming income that comes in, on an intermittent basis. Every now and then I sell some firewood off our farm. I do work for aged care that I get paid for on a monthly basis. And every now and then I go and do some training workshops for my fellow farmers. So I list all of that income in separate line items and I send it all to the accountant so he can make the decision about what he needs to put in my tax return.
Okay.
And the reason I like to do that is that then I can never be accused of not providing full disclosure. Now, for argument's sake, when I send my income statement into the accountant, it includes all of those things that I've just shared with you. It also includes if I've received a tax refund, which doesn't have to go into the return because it was a refund from last year. Every now and then we might have a garage sale every 4 or 5 years and tidy up the house and offload a few things. Whilst that's not taxable income, I never take the chance. I just put all of that data in so that the accountant knows what the deal is.
Yeah.
Okay. And that way, for a lot of people, a lot of small business people, it's less confusing. So if they just keep a record of every penny that comes in and where it comes from, then you can let the accountant decide whether they need to tell the tax office about it or not. And for you as a small business operator, if you've just got it in your head that I just record all of my income in some way, shape or form, be it a paper ledger or a cloud accounting program, if you record all the income, then there's no hard feelings at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So because then you don't have to think about it. You don't have to decide, do I have to record this bit of income or not?
Yeah.
It's just there. So that makes it hellishingly easier. And that way, it's the accountant that's got to worry about it, not you. Okay. Now, having said that, a lot of that income, and in your situation, Kate, because am I right in thinking with the schools, are they paying you as a contractor and not as an employee?
Yeah, as a contractor. Yeah.
Okay, good. So whilst that amount of money you said you're going to earn is quite good, the reality is that's the gross amount. So from that, you will have to put aside a small proportion for tax, a proportion for your operating expenses. And I'm not sure whether you and I have had this discussion about whether you've got super or not.
No, that yes, I have, but I don't contribute to my super at all.
Okay. All right. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But, you know, all things being equal, that gross amount that comes in, some of it you get to keep.
Mhm.
A lot of it will go out as expenses.
Yeah.
Now, there'll be expenses that occur right now, but some of them will be expenses that are due in the future because, you know, you'll only pay tax on that at some stage in the new financial year after you've done the return. Some of the expenses will be immediate, so you've got to, you know, feed the dogs,
Yeah.
keep your work clothes clean and tidy, get to and from work, and a few other things.
Yeah.
So, you know, having an understanding about how much of it you get to keep versus how much of it is outgoing, that's very, very important.
Yeah.
So I'm just having a look here. Now, Kate, you're probably turning over considerably less than 74,000 at the present time.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So you're obviously not charging GST.
No.
Okay, good. And the fact of the matter is the law, the way it is at the moment, is that you do not have to pay, you do not have to charge and collect GST until you're turning over somewhere north of 74,000.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, and I'll give you a little example. So the little farm business my wife and I have, so we've got about 30 or 40 cows and we pay agistment and we have farm expenses that we have to manage. Now, whilst I think the best year we've had recently was 22 or 23,000 income from the farm business a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I had to pay GST when I sold the cows. And every time I buy something, I collected GST when I sold the cows. And every time I spend some money on the farm, I have to pay GST.
Yeah.
If I was not registered for GST, I would only get back GST money that I've paid when I do my tax return.
Yeah.
So at this stage, I choose to be registered for GST and to do a BAS return on a quarterly basis because let's say I buy some fencing equipment for $1,000. I buy tractor fuel for $200. I need to replace some tools for $300. There's $1,500 and there's probably GST on that of $150. Now, it mightn't sound like much, but if I do not register for GST, I may only ever get that $150 back at some time in the new financial year.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm registered for GST and I do a BAS statement on a quarterly basis, I will get that $150 back early in the new quarter.
Yeah.
Now, from a cash flow perspective, for those of us that have small businesses and we're very frequently, we go to the cupboard and the cupboard's bare or very lean, that $150 is more valuable to me in my hand than disappearing off into the tax ether.
Yeah.
So, and frankly, the way cloud accounting has gone, it's very, very simple. And I'm not advocating that you have a cloud-based tax program, but
I already have.
You have, what have you got? Zero?
Zero, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So you will be able to use that in very, very short amounts of time and without much time, money and energy to reconcile your figures on a quarterly basis and see, well, if you paid out $2,000 in GST for the quarter, as is quite possible. I don't know if dog food has GST on it.
Yeah, I buy human food for my dogs.
Okay, well, that's fine. So there's no GST there, but there'll be other things that you will actually pay GST on.
Yeah.
Your ability to get that money back and keep it so you can put it to work in your business is quite important.
Yeah.
And, you know, the way my accounting is set up, providing all my figures are up to date, which they should be anyway, it only takes me about 10 minutes to do a BAS return 4 times a year.
Okay.
So for the amount of time that you spend doing BAS, bearing in mind that your figures need to be up to date on a monthly basis anyway,
yeah,
it can mean that instead of losing, you know, a couple of hundred or a couple of $1,000 each year in GST, that's money that you actually get back so you can use it.
Yeah, right. See, because I used to be registered for GST, and then my accountant said took me off. But then I paid my accountant to do my BAS. So I guess.
Yes, and a lot of people do. But
yeah.
the way things have gone with cloud accounting,
yeah,
it's hellishingly easier now than it ever was before. And look, I've got to tell you, I keep all of my tax figures, both my income and my expenses, in an Excel program.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, I make sure the program is up to date. I cut and paste the figures into another page, and then I share that with the accountant. Now, he has to pay someone in his office to put that into the accounting program they use to do the tax. And of course, being that he's got to run a business, he charges me to do that, which is fine. And he keeps saying, oh, if you had Xero, we could save you some money. But because my affairs aren't what one would call complicated, I may save money with the accountant, but then I still have to pay the subscription fee for Xero.
$29 a month.
Yeah, okay, which is $360, $350 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So whilst I don't want to sound like Uncle Scrooge, the rub is it might make my accountant's job easier, but it's not, I'm not financially any better off.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's no reason why you shouldn't do it. So the rub is being very aware about what costs are there and what you can do about it to maximize the amount of money that you keep within the business and under your management. That's why it's pretty important. And I can understand a lot of people saying, oh, Kate, it's a small business. You don't really need to worry about GST. Well, okay, well, let's look at it this way. And no one else is on the call, so that's okay. You're going to bring in $1,115 a week, right? How many weeks of the year are you reckon you're going to do that?
That's only 40 weeks.
Okay, good. Okay, so 1115, add a 0, times it by 4 is 0, is 6, is $44,600.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if your expenses are half of that at 22, right, 22,300, then quite frankly, you could well be paying out $2,230 in GST when you purchase stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the equivalent of 2 weeks' work.
Yeah, true.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure that you could put $2,230 to very good use if it was in your hands.
Yeah.
Okay. And the rub is if you're feeling confident with Xero, even if it took you 4 hours a year to do your BAS, 4 hours work for $2,230, I think it's a pretty good return on investment.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why, that's why I sort of belabor the fact about what is it with the accounting that you can do, and being aware of GST management, what can you do to make sure that you're not leaking money?
Yeah.
That you're actually in charge of every dollar that you're entitled to earn.
Yeah.
That's okay. So that's why I sort of belabor that fact about income and understanding how important the income is.
Makes me think that maybe I'll get the accountant to deal with my tax this year.
Yes.
And start afresh.
Yeah. So if you want, maybe on the 3rd or the 4th of July, you can ring up the tax office of your own volition and tell them your name and say, look, I used to have an ABN number, or I do have an ABN number. I used to be registered for GST. I think my accountant had cancelled it. I want to re-register.
Yeah.
Okay. Because yes, it's a little bit of work. I know that. But it means that you're not losing money that you may never get back.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just like that's the sort of work that I can do at any time when I feel
Yes,
well.
you can just sit there and make it that, every Monday afternoon from 5 o'clock till 6 o'clock, you sit down, turn the phone off, turn social media off, make sure the dogs are fed and locked outside or locked away, and that's your financial management time.
Yeah.
Or even if it was half an hour on a Monday and half an hour on a Wednesday or something, so that it didn't become a chore or a job that just destroyed your enthusiasm.
Yeah, that's it. That's why I do Xero, because it keeps me honest. I do it all the time.
Wonderful, mate. Good on you. Good. That's very good.
I take a photo, and then I put it in, and it's done.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Righto, so let's talk about debtors. Now, I know that you're in the situation, so let's have a chat about this. Again, no one's on the call. Mm-hmm. How frequently have the people you've done work for, how frequently do they pay you? Do they pay you very quickly?
Sometimes very quickly, other times, like it's not the people I actually invoice, it's not the schools or the business services. No. But like sometimes whoever deals with the money over in Anango is very slack, and I end up waiting 3 or 4 weeks for it.
Okay. So when we talk about debtors, I'll use a situation. You might be a law firm or an accounting firm or a manufacturing business. Someone like Norco's, the Norco store there in Mergen, or someone like QP out there at Kingaroy, or even Oldmate there at Memarambi that makes the manufacturing and makes the peanut silos. Yeah. A lot of businesses considerably bigger than yours may have debtors, and there'll be people that take 3 months, 4 months, 6 months to pay a bill.
Oh God, no.
Okay. And the sad part about having debtors is that you've really got to carry them. And even though you've done the business, you've incurred expenses in delivering that service or that good to that person, and you've paid for them, so you're out of pocket.
Yeah.
Okay. The rub with a lot of companies is that, rightly or wrongly, they let their debtors run for a very, very lengthy period of time. And in eventuality, they may never get paid, or they may never get paid the amount of money that they actually billed the customer for.
Yeah.
So I often suggest to people that come July or come June, it's time to visit your debtors, your debtors ledger, and look at the amount of debtors that you have, and ask yourself the cold hard question: do I really expect to be paid? Do I really expect this person to pay this bill or not? Okay. And if you decide that there's very little chance that you will actually, hello, who have we got here? Kimbo. Let's have a look. Just go there. There she is. Oh, Jacob's here. Okay. Jacob. Hello, Jacob. What's your microphone doing? Disable the mic? Mute? No. Disable.
His is. Oh.
Mute? No.
He's muted now. Now his microphone's turned off.
Oh, Jacob, if you can hear me, mate, hello.
Hello, I can hear you now.
Good on you, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for letting me attend.
That's all right, mate. Welcome aboard. We're just talking about debtors. We've got up to the debtors part of the slideshow, so I'll just take a little pause here. I've got Kate on the line with you as well. Jacob, tell us a little bit about your business.
So basically, I used to do video editing business, and I also used to do like Uber, so like private Uber, just driving friends around. That was a bit of a side hustle, and basically at the moment I'm just attending these business events just to get an idea on a better understanding on business and the legalities behind it, so doing tax and etc.
Wonderful, mate. And where are you located?
Bundaberg Central.
Fantastic. Good. All right. So that's good, Jacob. Thanks for sharing that. So I'll continue with the discussion about the debtors. So I was just explaining to Kate that a lot of large businesses have debtors that they carry. So that's someone that they've done some work for. They've sent them the bill, and the bill is sitting there unpaid. And in a lot of
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I see. Go on.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. Good. So okay. So and the rub is that come this time of the year when you're getting ready to do your tax, I often recommend to people, if they're carrying any debtors, they need to look at their debtors list and ask the question, you know, do I believe that these people are going to pay? And if so, when are they going to pay? If you think that it's a very, very long period of time away, or they may never pay the bill, you need to let your accountant know so he is aware of how to treat that debtor when they do your tax return, because you're going to be you could have put that down as income. You could have put it as accrual income rather than cash flow income, and you could end up paying tax on money that hasn't come in.
Yep.
And that's no fun. That's no fun at all. So you need
follow on at the start. Sorry, I missed 10 minutes of it.
Yes, that's all right.
So I don't even know how to pay tax as a freaking business. I've never done it, and I've mainly done my own tax as a worker.
Yes. Okay.
My dad's a builder though, and he's always had accountants and stuff like that. So I've always thought a bit in the family a little bit. So
all right, so that's good. So when you say you've done your own tax, has that been a case that you've used, like, I'm going to show my age here now. You used to be able to get a thing called a tax pack every year from the post office. Is that what you've used in the past to do your tax?
I only do my tax as a worker. I've never done it as a business. So
cool.
This is something to learn for me, I guess.
Good. Okay. So at the present time, you're still doing the Uber work?
No longer doing that. I'm looking into other business.
Right. Okay. I'll briefly rewind, because there's in essence, as a small business owner, either as a micro business or a big business, I recommend that you keep a record of all of the income that you generate for each financial year.
Yep.
Okay, keep a record of all of it, and then come tax time, if you want to do your tax yourself, as I understand it, you can fill in your tax returns electronically, and the questions they ask will determine what income you need to declare and what you don't.
It just seems so hard to have to save that money to pay tax, because I just spent
Yes, I know, mate. I know. So we'll come to that in a minute, and that's a very good observation. Okay, because as I shared with Kate before, Kate's on a situation where she's a contractor. So after she finishes doing the work that she does for her clients, she sends them a bill. They send her a set amount of money on that bill, but the rub is Kate doesn't get to keep all of that. She's got to put some of that money aside for tax. She's got to put some of it aside for super. She's got to put some of it aside for her business expenses, which would include vehicle operating expenses, insurance, uniforms, washing of clothes, looking after.
Isn't there a $15,000 threshold where under $15,000 it's considered a hobby and you don't really have to declare it?
Yeah, look, thanks for that. I'm not exactly sure what that hobby level is.
Yeah.
Okay, but yes, indeed, you are right. There are a lot of things that one does as a hobby that aren't considered.
Yeah, I've never earned over $15,000 a year in my own business, really. It's always just been a few dollars here, a few dollars there. It's never been liable for
Okay. And are your plans going forward, Jacob, that your business is to be a full-time enterprise?
Oh, well, I'm just learning about business. I'm thinking about studying maybe a diploma of business soon, just to understand business as a whole.
Yeah.
A lot of the time people ask me when I was going to a lot of these events, and I'd also go to startup coffee meetups and stuff, and they'd ask me what my business was, and I'd actually say I don't have a business yet. I'm just learning all this stuff first.
Okay. Cool.
I've had businesses, but it's just like, it was just mainly the Uber and driving friends around. It was kind of like a hobby wasn't really in
Okay.
that.
And is there any particular field that you think you might like to get into as a business operator?
In this country, probably anything and everything. Like as an
Right.
entrepreneur, I feel like I'd just get into whatever falls in my lap, really, whatever
Okay.
is relevant to the trends and stuff.
All right. Okay. So that's good. So essentially, just to recap, when we're talking about deciding what your income is from a tax point of view, just record all of the income that comes in, and then when it comes tax time, either the ATO system that you use to generate your own tax return, or if you're going to use the accountant, at that time you can make about what you need to declare, if any.
Yep. Okay.
So with regard to debtors, I know for a fact Kate doesn't have any debtors because her business isn't structured that way. But if you did have a business where there was debtors, you really need to make sure that the debtors, unless there's a pre-agreement, that the money's paid within 30 days, because otherwise you're acting as a banker and you're giving your client stuff for free.
What if the same regard if you're a debtor to someone else?
Well, the same ones, if someone's done some work for you and they've sent you a bill and you haven't paid it, well, that's all right for you because you've had the work done.
Is that why most of the time, if I was doing work for someone else, I'd get them to pay me then and there?
Yeah, well, that's good, mate. And certainly Uber is in that situation that, to the best of my knowledge, Uber never has debtors, because it's money in, it's payment. Okay. They're really the best. They're the best sort of businesses to have, because small business.
Sorry, you cut out there.
Which you need to be paid for.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what we talk about there with debtors. Let's have a look at. That's the next slide here for you guys. So let's have a talk about your business expenses. Okay. So similarly, with regard to keeping a record of all of your income, I heartily encourage all of my with all of their expenses. Now,
record expenses.
Yes, all of their expenses. Now, for small business people starting out, I understand that we're always under the pump because we lack resources. There's no shipping container full of $100 bills you're not telling me about stuck down the backyard behind the chook shed. I understand that. But the rub is, running a business means that you can earn money. And
sorry, what did you say there? It keeps cutting out there. Makes you
so when you're a small business, you have to spend money to make money.
Yeah, very true.
Okay. And so you must expenses that you incur.
Yep.
Because you will be able to claim those expenses your income. So as before, like my wife and I have a operate that has nothing to do with our PAYG work, and we sell a few cows. Last year we sold about $12,000 worth of cows. Okay, now if we did not keep a record of our expenses and we didn't claim our expenses, the tax office would want to tax us on that $12,000, and they'd say, well, there's your income, you're going to get taxed on it.
Yeah, true,
okay.
True.
The sad reality is that
so you got to fight with the tax office pretty much. You got to fight them. It's like a legal battle.
The case of keeping very good records, so you know that you're declaring.
Yeah, very true. Okay, interesting stuff.
So you need.
So did you buy the cows? Did you buy the cows for less than what you sold them?
I owned them, and they multiplied.
Ah.
Okay, so it's not a trading situation where I'm buying and selling things. I've owned the cows for a long time. They're breeding every year, so I have extra cows that I.
Okay, that's
Where
very
I,
simple
where I.
concept too to understand. Yeah.
Okay, were I running a trading situation like a corner store or a retail situation where I'm buying product, I'm adding a markup or a margin to it, and then I'm selling it again, that's a very different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
Okay, so with regard to keeping these business expenses, as I say, a lot of the expenses that you incur will be tax deductible.
Yep.
Meaning you can write them off against the gross income. Some of them won't be deductible. Okay, now to give you an example, the tax office doesn't care if I cut my hair or not.
Yeah.
Okay, that's tax deductible expense. But for me to,
is that tax deductible expense, haircut?
well, it depends. In my situation, it isn't. But if I do not my hair, I'm going to be happy. And the fact that I need to be, I need a regular basis, but the tax office doesn't care about that because everyone needs to cut their hair. So,
Yep.
expense.
Yeah, true.
Okay. It's more money that you're spending. So I recommend everybody keep a jolly good record of all of the expenses that they incur. So when it comes to tax time, you and or your accountant or the tax return that you're going to do via the tax office, you can then decide which expenses you need to tell them about and which ones you don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Kim, welcome.
Thank you. God.
You're here at last, mate. That's good. Welcome.
Oh, what a mission. Yep.
Yeah, I know. How's things out at Hivesville today?
Yeah, we had a little shower today.
Did you? Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
so
good.
It's a little bit,
Okay.
little bit windy outside. Yeah, it's good.
I'm in my friend's art gallery and we're looking at selling some of his artwork.
Okay, well that's good. Has he had the art gallery for long?
He's had it for years.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm sure he'll be able to share some of his business experience with you.
Yeah, he will.
Okay.
So
Kim, the reason
he operates as a hobby though too. He doesn't earn that much.
Okay. Oh. Okay. So Kim, so for example, in my work, I have to use a motor car to get around the countryside. Now, I also have to use a motor car. So the tax. So therefore, what I keep a record of every motor and so
My
work that I
services.
do.
Yeah, my service. It's cutting out for you, Jason. By the way, maybe that's yours.
Yeah, I thought it was just me, but video. If we go with that video, it might help.
Maybe, but Jason's not coming through clear, but everyone else is.
Yeah. Okay. Has he got? Oh no, he's still here.
I'm still here. Let's see. Here we go.
Okay.
I'll turn the video off and.
Jason, your camera's not working, but can you turn it off as well?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay.
Because that might help.
Where is mine? Have a look here.
On my screen, there's like a little bar where there's like the red hang up and it's along there. You can click on the mic.
Yeah, he already done it.
Oh, there it is. Good. Until you get better. And that thing with business expenses, extremely important that you keep thorough records, because you don't want to be paying more tax than you should.
Yeah, true that.
And also, from a business management point of view, if you've got good records, say you've been in business for 2 or 3 years, and you've got good records of what you like, sit down and what you're going to have, all things being, the business can be as profitable.
Is everyone from Bundaberg here?
No. Sorry, Jason, you're really choppy. We can't get you.
Yeah, true that. I'm experiencing the same thing, Jason. It's cutting out for you.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
All right.
I am as
Maybe
well.
that's your connection, Jason.
It could be at my end.
Can you move outside or something? Are you on a laptop?
Yeah, just hang on. I'll move to another part of the office.
Yeah.
And we'll see what we can do there. Just hang on a sec, guys.
I'm at a business meeting. Shane. Financial preparation for the such and such. They're teaching me how to do my tax because I want to get into business.
Guys, let's see how we go now. I've moved into where the computer server lives.
Okay.
We'll see how we go. We'll see if that's a little bit better.
So far, so good.
All right. Well, that's good. So, righto. So where were we? So that's what we need to know about your expenses. I encourage people to record all of their expenses, whether they're business-related expenses or not, because that's your money, and you need to have a good idea of where it's going.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So when we can inflate those expenses a little bit, like,
yeah,
is that right? Is that that's quite beneficial for us, right? Because I feed my dogs the same sort of food I eat.
Yes.
If some of that tip my food goes over into the dog expenses.
Well, Kate, I'd say in that situation, when you purchase food, you might want to do 2 purchases. You do one for yourself,
okay,
and then separately one for the dogs, just so that there's clear evidence about which purchase is which.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay. Doesn't really matter where the dog's food is coming from, just so long as you have a legitimate receipt for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
okay.
yeah. 2 shops would probably be easy, wouldn't it? So it comes out of one account and then the personal comes out of the personal.
Yeah, because then you've got to sit there and fiddle ass around with some record keeping, whereas if you've got a standalone receipt that, well, this receipt's for dog food, then you don't have to sit there and itemise it and pull it apart.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good.
Cool, thank you.
So, right, let's have a talk about depreciation. Now, from what I know about Kim's business and Kate's business, and the fact that Jacob is in, what have I done? Where is, what am I looking for? I've lost, that's the one we want there. So let's talk about depreciation. The thing you need to understand about depreciation is that it's not going to be applicable to everyone. So I'll share with you an example. Some people down the road from me have an earth moving business. So they've got a number of trucks, they've got quite a bit of earth moving equipment, and they can use depreciation to help reduce their tax. Now, as far as the tax office is concerned, business equipment is something that depreciates over time and eventually wears out, and its value goes to 0. So if old mate down the road from me that's got the earth moving business, let's say he bought a new dump truck for $100,000, he will be allowed to claim depreciation on that over a period. Now, he may well be able to claim $10,000 a year for 10 years. And then at the end of 10 years, as far as the tax office is concerned, that truck is not worth anything. But because he had to purchase the truck to create an income, he can't write it off as a deduction in one hit, but he can claim a proportion of it every year. Okay, so most small businesses like Kate's and like Kim's, and I'd say with Jacob with regard to the Uber business, he may own his own car, in which case there may be some depreciation there available to him. But most small businesses aren't going to have a large amount of depreciation to worry about. The good thing about depreciation is it is a tax deduction, which means it can significantly reduce the amount of tax you're paying. But the opposite side of that is you've had to spend that money to create the business, and it's money that you don't have for other things. And, you know, it's a bit of a national sport in Australia about reducing your tax so you don't have to pay any. But the rub is you need to be very careful when you're buying equipment for your business that it is actually going to help you take the business where you want to go. Okay. And again, getting accounting advice there about depreciation is very, very important. This financial year that ends in a few days' time, you're still able to do instant asset write-off for quite large items, which means that, you know, if you needed a new computer and it was $2,000 or $3,000, you could claim that as a full deduction this year. If you needed a new motor car, oh, that's probably too big. I'll retract that. We won't talk about that. If you needed a new computer and a new printer, Kate, if you needed some items for the dogs to help you deliver the service that you deliver for the schools, that'd be deductible. In Kim's situation with her hair salon, if she needed a new wash basin or a new set of scissors, or a new FPOS system, she'd be able to claim all of that as a deduction this year. In the new financial year, there's very strict limits about how much you can write off in one hit and how much you can't write off in one hit. So, you know, if you need something for the business, you'd probably want to purchase it before the 30th of June rather than after.
How do we find out that, Jason?
I'm not sure, but I'm pretty confident the tax office website will have some information there about what is deductible and what isn't.
Okay.
Did you have a specific asset in mind, Kate, that you were thinking about?
No, just in general, because I do to reduce that, what you said about national sport. I've enjoyed doing that, claiming what I can.
Yeah, look, and that's the rub, and I know it sounds a bit of a throwaway line when I say it, but the fact of the matter is most businesses are going to need a small amount of equipment to do the business and to earn money. And that's just the fact of the matter. You know, unless you're an artist who draws paintings on pieces of cardboard you find on the road with charcoal that you make yourself, and I'm not being disparaging of artists, I'm just saying that there's very, very few businesses that you can do without having to purchase equipment.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of the matter. If you come up with a business that you can make a lot of money without owning so much as a pencil, then please let me know. I'd be quite interested in that business because I don't enjoy owning a heap of assets just so I can earn some income, but I haven't found that sort of business yet.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing to remember about equipment and depreciation is, you know, nobody buys a taxi or an Uber car and leaves it in the shed 3 days a week. It's a piece of equipment that needs to be out there on the road 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, earning income if you're serious about making a business out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, if and a lot of people, and farmers are particularly guilty of this, and I've been guilty of it myself, is that, you know, that we have a lot of equipment that you might only use 3 or 4 times a year for a day or two. And that's a lot of money tied up doing nothing for a very long period of time. And it might well be the case that, you know, you've claimed it as a deduction, you had a heap of money, you thought it was a good idea, and you feel good about having all this equipment in your shed. But sooner or later, it'll start costing you money. So the challenge that I put before people is make sure that you're really going to get your money's worth out of an asset. Otherwise, see if you can subcontract it or hire it or borrow it or get someone else to do it for you. And then you don't have to worry about owning equipment and depreciation. It's someone else's problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. Any questions about that one?
No, I don't think so. Like, is that all covered in Xero? I had to do a big spreadsheet up to get into that SEA program.
Oh,
and
yes.
Appreciation in that, like for my e-bikes and stuff.
Yes.
How does that go in? Does that go into Xero?
I don't. I'm not familiar with Xero myself, but there may be a facility in there where there are depreciation tables.
Okay.
Because
sorry.
Go on.
I was just thinking it probably points to I will get the accountant to do it this year, and then I'll study what they do.
Yes, exactly. Because because I remember when you purchased that bike that it was quite a hefty expense.
Thanks. 70,000. I only paid 4 for it.
Okay, so therefore, it might be a job for the accountant to decide how much depreciation. If the bike was 13 and you paid 4, then it was, you know, the depreciation for the whole bike. You may only be responsible for 4/13 of the depreciation rather than the whole lot. But again, that's a discussion for the accountant.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Let's have a look. What have I got here? Let's go to this one here. And righto, let's talk about maximising. Let's talk about, what have I done there? Apologies, guys. I'm trying to maximise that. Don't do that. Let's talk about maximising your deductions. Okay, so we've covered this a bit. Now I'll give you an example. So because I still have a landline phone at home and I've got a mobile phone and I've got NBN, my phone bill is about $200 a month or $2,400 a year. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, a small proportion of that amount is for personal use. So I cannot claim the full $2,400 a year as a deduction. I can probably only claim, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I think I claim about 70% of that as a business expense. Okay, now the good thing is the tax office will let you prepay expenses in advance, but they will only let you do it for a period of either 12 or 13 months. Okay, now, so today's the 23rd of June. It's the end of the financial year, Friday night next week. If I wanted to, and I had the spare money, and I emphasise this very importantly about having the spare money, I could pay Telstra $2,400 sometime between now and next Friday night, and my accountant would let me claim that as a full deduction on my tax for this year. So in all due respects, but the thing is, if I spend that $2,400, I need to make sure that I'm not going to need it, because let's say I get into September or October and some of my customers decide they don't want to work with me and I'm short of income. That was $2,400 that I could need, but I've already spent it.
Yeah.
So you need to be really on the ball with your cash flow planning, before you want to go ahead and prepay expenses in advance.
You have to look at like what interest you'd earn on that $1,200.
Yeah, so very good, Kate. So at the moment, if you're really keen, you could go down to the bank and put $2,400 in the bank, and if you were really lucky, you might get 4%. You might get 4%, okay, which is $96.
Yeah,
$96 for the year. Okay, and you've got
money.
What's that?
In my world, you know, that's something to worry about.
Yeah, look, it might be something to worry about. So, but the thing is, yes, you could earn some money, and you've got to say, well, is $96 in 12 months' time better than a $2,400 tax deduction now?
Yeah,
okay,
and will I have that $2,400 in the bank for 12 months to collect the $94 interest?
That's exactly right. And so if you spend it as a deduction, you don't have access to it. If you keep it as a term deposit, you'll get your money back, but you still can't use it for 12 months.
Yeah.
Whereas if I don't prepay the expense, I'll have the money sitting there if I need it.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, you've got to be really on them. You've got to be really up to date if you want to go and prepay expenses, because it can come back to bite you if business conditions change throughout the year. Okay, and it's a lot of things. You can prepay your electricity, you can prepay your phone, you could prepay some insurance, you may be able to prepay rates. Often in the past, I've paid my mechanic in advance. You know, I'll pay him in June, but he might not do the car service till August or September. Yep. Okay, so I can prepay in advance. Again, it's making sure you understand what you legitimately can and can't do, because you don't want to get in trouble with it.
Yeah.
So, any questions about that one, team?
All good here.
Okay, cool.
All good.
Kimbo, good. Jacob?
Sorry, mate. My mic was on mute. What was that?
That's right. I was just saying, have you got any questions about maximising your deductions?
No, my dad was a builder, so I used to hear about all that when he'd book home show holidays in Brisbane, and then he'd just write it off on tax. Like
Happy days.
Book a family holiday, but then he'd go and see a something to do with building in Brisbane.
Yes.
Write the whole thing off on tax. So yeah, I've heard about all that.
So that's very good. So there's a good point. Thanks for that. I hadn't thought about that one. So
thank you.
When was it? Back in about 15 years ago, I was invited to go to America to participate in a small farming conference in the Midwest, and my wife works as an accounts manager in a solicitor's firm. Yep. So my airfare I was able to claim as a deduction because I was earning income going over there, but hers was not. So I forget what the accountant said we could do, as long as we had evidence that she'd visited a law firm in America to ask about how they do their accounting. We might have been able to claim her air ticket as a deduction.
Yeah, it's almost like playing the game to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you know, in Kate's situation, were someone running a conference in Brisbane about different therapy modalities for young kids, Kate may be able to claim attending that conference as a deduction.
And you can pretty much plan your holidays around that each time. So if you know that there's going to be a conference or something like that, just go on holidays so you can tax deduct it on those times. Like, don't choose to go when you know that you can't claim it. Especially.
Yeah, good one, mate. Thank you. And in Kim's situation, what were there to be a hairdressing conference in Brisbane or the Sunshine Coast, and there were going to be companies represented there that make hair care products, you could claim the travel to and from that conference as a deduction, because it's part of your of keeping in touch with industry trends.
Yeah. And like a hair expo or something, yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's very important stuff.
What about future? So I want to diversify quite a lot in my business, and
Yes.
you know, like I'm thinking tiny homes and stuff.
Yes.
So I went to the tiny home in expo in Toowoomba, but I'm not actually earning any money in that.
Yeah, so you might have to, Kate, in that instance, you might have to be a little bit creative.
Yeah.
You know, it might, you might have found someone in that part of the world that did some therapy modalities or methodologies that are new to you, and you might have visited them at the same time.
Yep.
Okay.
Which I did, the vet over there.
Yep. Okay. In which case you'd say, well, that was a professional development outing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it might not be listed as a separate line item. It's just there in your normal everyday transport expenses.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, you know, keeping very good records about why the expenses were incurred will be very, very helpful in getting it across the line.
Yeah, because they actually, in the ATO app, they've got a place where you can record your kilometres travelled.
Yes, they have. Yes, and I'll just go. I'm just looking at a separate screen here. One of the things that we use at work is we have an application on our mobile phone called Drivers App, and we've got a little computer chip inside a piece of porcelain that sits in the car. And whenever we get in the car, you turn the app on, it talks to the computer chip that lives in the car. You punch in the kilometres that you're starting the journey at, and it records all the kilometres until you turn the app off.
Oh, okay.
Right. And it uploads the data directly to the application. So then at the end of the month, we just print a report for head office, and you can demarcate on a daily basis whether the trip you're undertaking is personal or business.
Yeah.
So like with the work car I have for the Business Leap program, if I'm going out to Kingaroy or I'm going to Highsville or Mergen, it's personal kilometres from home to work, and then it's work kilometres from home to Wandai, and then Wandai back to work, and then work to home is personal.
Well, so my travel to schools would be personal then, wouldn't it?
No, look, I'm not sure about that, Kate. In your situation, and again, because it's contracting, you might be quite within your rights to list travel as a separate item on the bill, so that it's nullified.
Okay.
Yep. Or again, because of the nature of your work, that you're leaving home, I suppose your office is at home, and you have to travel to work. You have to travel to work to get to earn money. It might well be the case that if the school in question does not pay a travel component, that then the cost of that travel from a tax point of view would come off your earnings.
Yeah, okay. So that'll be a accountant question, I guess, to work out.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas I know in Kim's situation, because she does not have a salon at home, she's probably able to claim her travel because she won't want to leave her tools of trade at the shop overnight.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know for a fact that for people that need tools of trade, the fact that you're not leaving your tools of trade at work and they're travelling with you, that means that you should be able to claim your travel expenses.
Well, I'd be right too, because I class the dogs as the tool of my trade.
Yes, okay, well, there you go. So I'm not thinking there'd be any drama for you Kate, to claim the travel as an expense.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you.
But again, having that discussion with the accountant, because I'm not a qualified accountant and I'm not paid to dispense accounting advice. So right, let's talk about superannuation. Now, I know for a lot of small business people, superannuation isn't something that pops up on their radar. But the fact of the matter is, if you employed someone, you would have to pay them superannuation for any work that they do for you, separately to their wages.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact of the matter is, and I understand that when we're starting out in small business, most of our income gets consumed in running the business and then staying fit and healthy so that we can go to work tomorrow, and there's very little, most times there's very little left over. It's still very important that you put some money into super each year for two reasons. As a self-employed person, you can claim superannuation payments as a tax deduction. So that's very important to begin with. Secondly, superannuation is a way that you can access some very low-cost insurance, okay? And frequently, the insurance that superannuation companies offer their members is very competitively priced. And again, because it's being paid for within your super, even though your contributions are going to pay it, it's in one way you are getting a tax deduction for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Super.
So what happens? What happens if you don't pay your tax that you meant to pay? Like, will the tax?
Oh, okay. So good, Jacob. So yeah, let's cover that now while it's a hot topic. So let's say you went out and you continued your Uber business and you grew it into a full-time career, and you were driving 60 hours a week, and after Uber took their cut, you were earning $50,000, just for round figures, okay, or $52,000. The first $18,000 of income is tax-free.
Yes.
Okay, so you can comfortably earn $18,000 or $18,200 without paying tax. The amount of so then the next amount of money from 18,000 to, I think it's 36.
Okay.
You'll pay 19 cents in the dollar.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of it steps up each time. Yeah.
It steps up. Yep. So the first 18's free. Then you're going to pay 19 cents on the next.
But this is kind of all the stuff that your accountant will do for you, right?
Well, you need to understand it, but your question is, what happens if you don't pay tax? Well, eventually, if the tax office finds you, they'll send you a bill, and if you don't want to pay that, they might take you to court.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so it's your decision whether you wish to furnish tax returns or not, but the ways a society is today and the way everything's interlinked, it's very difficult to get along without paying tax for a long period of time.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. And if sitting down and crunching numbers is not something that fills you full of joy, then I heartily recommend you use an accountant. And it may even be the case that when you can afford it, if you don't like doing your figures.
How many times a year would you need to use an accountant? Because wouldn't it cost a fair bit of money to do that, right?
Accountants can cost anywhere from, a couple of $100 an hour up to $2,000 or $3,000 a year or more, depending on how big your work is.
And that's tax deductible too, eh?
All of that is a tax deduction.
But yeah. So basically, to understand financial literacy and stuff, it's basically just to save yourself a bit as a business owner.
Well, it's not just about, if we're going to talk about financial literacy, it's not just about paying tax or not. It's about helping you as a business manager understand your expenses, understanding how much you've got to earn, understanding whether the product or the service you're offering to the market is actually profitable or not.
If you have to pay any other contractors or any other employees that you employ, is that a tax deduction or what?
Most certainly.
Yeah.
Most certainly. So just as using an accountant is a deduction, if I go and use a solicitor to get business advice, that could be a deduction. If I go and hire a tilt tray to move a piece of equipment, that'll be a deduction.
Do you have to pay tax on any government grants you get?
I'm pretty sure government grants are free.
Yeah.
The challenge with government grants is you're not going to get them if you don't have an operating business that has quite a few years worth of business records.
Yeah. Thanks for that advice. Yeah, I've been looking into business grants for stuff that I want to start. Maybe skateboarding lesson business. Where I want to teach people how to skate. Grants such as like teaching Indigenous people or people with mental health issues or disabled people.
Yeah, good. So to the best of my knowledge, government grants aren't tax deductible, but it's not like someone's going to give you a shopping bag full of $100 bills and say, that's a wonderful idea, off you go.
So, yeah, that's why you got to do business plans and stuff.
That's right. So understanding about, what cash flow looks like, how to budget, all of those things are critically important.
You can also pay someone to do that, right?
Yes, you could. But if you don't have the money available to pay them, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'd be selling my car and then maybe investing that into a business. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair enough. Good
I had an
idea.
idea, maybe opening a skate shop or something, but I don't know.
Okay.
It wouldn't be that profitable, but yeah.
Okay. So that whole thing with super is, I know it can be a challenge when we're starting out because, our net, the residual money left after expenses isn't high, and you can justify in yourself not paying super. But the rub is, sooner or later, there'll come a time in life.
By law, you don't have to pay super, right? For a business owner, to yourself.
I'm not exactly sure. I don't think it's mandatory that you pay it, but you're certainly doing yourself a disservice if you don't.
At the end of the day, you kind of can do your own self-managed super fund, can't you?
You certainly can, but the costs involved and the time in that involved, you'd want to have well over $500,000 in super, or be very sure that you're going to be very good at managing it for you to do self-managed super.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, okay. And that's a whole nother, that'd be a topic we could talk about all day if we felt like it, but we'll rock on. So, guys, any questions there about super from your point of view?
No, I think I'm good. I know I need to do it. I don't want to have to work till I'm 80.
Okay.
But yeah.
Right.
And coming a little bit higher, and like next time when I get the extra money, I'll work on maybe putting it, like a direct deposit into it.
Yeah, good. The one thing I will stress, that if you're not doing self-managed super, I heartily recommend that you use an industry super fund rather than a for-profit fund. Now, to give you an example, many years ago, I had a superannuation account that was managed by, wasn't AMP, it was a National Mutual. And one year, the earnings were $2,000 and the expenses were $2,100.
Yeah, right.
Because of the amount of money that they charged to manage, and then after I saw that, I thought, bugger this. So then I went and joined Sun Super, because they're an industry fund. They're there to make sure your super does well. They're not there to make money for someone else.
Yeah.
So I'm personally a huge fan of industry super funds because they can be very, very low cost.
Yeah. I have my supers in with Q Super or whatever they are now.
Oh yes, the Australian Retirement Trust. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I was going to say, how do you set up a bank account where you're transferring your tax into so that you can't touch it? Because I feel like if I transfer it in a bank account, I'm just going to get it out and use it.
Can I field this one, Jason?
Yes, please.
This is what I do anyway. I have an account with ING, and I've logged it up on, and I've given my mum my key card, and I've made her give me the password for that, do the password, and I don't know how to get into that account.
Yeah, otherwise I'm just going to go spend it on the pokies. Yeah.
I mean, it might not be very mature, Jason, but it works.
No, look, very good. And the rub is, if depending if your bank will allow you to have a number of accounts, it might well be the case that you have a few separate bank accounts. So when the money comes in, you sit down on a weekly basis and split it up. So let's say you have a working account into which.
Something as well.
Yes, mate.
Why won't the government let you be a pay as you go in a business thing? Because I've never understood that when you get a job, the business will do the pay as you go. But if you're a sole trader or a business owner, you have to save all this money in a separate bank to pay him at tax time. Why can't you just pay the tax office as a business owner?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why they do it that way. I mean, the classifications for business owners is
so hard.
A sole trader or a partnership or a company or a trust.
Because when I was working for someone else, they'd just pay my tax for me each time. And
that's exactly right.
If you're a business owner, it's almost like you got to save it in some separate account. But I feel like I'd spend that, so I feel like I'd have to maybe set up with the bank like maybe a 6-month thing, so I literally cannot touch it at all until tax time. Maybe some of these banks actually offer you a business account so you can actually set that up.
Yeah, I think it'd be worth your while talking to your bank and say, look, I want to set up a number of accounts, and this is why I want to set them up, so that if you had, let's say you were earning as a contractor or working for others, let's pretend you've got the skate shop up and going, and you've brought in $1,000 this week. Of that, that $400 is going to operating expenses. Okay, some of those that you would pay right now, some of them you'll be paying in the future. So the $1,000 comes in, you put $400 into a separate bank account for expenses. You have another account there that's that you put $200 in for tax and super, and then you've got the other money free to spend for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, but then it comes with you have to then have the self-control to not spend the money.
I'm not good at self-control.
Okay, well,
I think I need limitations in place with these accounts. If I do start a business and it becomes very successful, I'd want accounts where like you're paying it into a separate bank. There's no way you can touch it.
Okay, well, that might be something you could set up with the bank, or alternatively, there may be a facility for you to send money to the tax office on a regular basis as a prepayment for tax.
Yeah, I heard you can kind of quarterly do it because what's the standardization is every 12 months, right?
Well, yes, you have to furnish a tax return within 11 months of the tax year finishing. Yep.
But like what I'm saying to you, I actually watched some YouTube video and there was some guy that's saying maybe you can kind of do it every quarter.
Well, if you're, as I was talking to Kate at the beginning, if you're set up for GST to collect and pay and to collect and remit GST, then you have to do a business activity statement every 3 months.
Oh yeah, I wanna learn a little bit more about those BAS, business activity statements, because I don't know much about that. I'd like to know a bit more about that.
Okay. Well, that'd be something we could talk about one-on-one with you, mate, but it's something that would come into play whence you started the business, and if you were going to.
That's pretty much what we're talking about here, though, right? Business activity statements is like expenses, deductions. All of this that we're talking about is BAS.
Well, today's getting ready for the end of the financial year and setting up your figures next year.
Okay.
Of which a business activity statement would be part of that, but you only have to do a business activity statement if you're.
How does everyone do their business activity statements? Is it on an app on their iPhone these days, or they do it with like with their filing cabinet, like paperwork and stuff, or what?
Kate or Kim, do either of you do a business activity statement?
No.
Yeah, no, I signed up for GST and then my accountant got me out of it. My accountant did it for me and charged, I think, about $220 for that as well.
Yep.
But then because I'm not earning enough, I don't have to do one. But I think I'll after this discussion, I think I'll re-register and do it myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this depending on your financial literacy, as opposed to, like, say if someone's very financial literate, they can do all these BAS statements themselves and then hand them to their accountant maybe once a year. But if you're dealing with your accountant more, like, you got to send them BAS statements all the time, you're paying them more money to do all the financial stuff.
Yes, mate. So every time you engage with your accountant, they're going to want to bill you.
Yes.
Okay. You can set it up so that you can do your BAS return yourself and send the information off to the tax office on a quarterly or a monthly basis.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with your accountant. That's the way I do mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're actually minimising a expense there because you're actually
correct.
Accountant. Yeah. Very true.
Yes. Yep. Okay. And the whole thing about operating a profitable business is how can I keep my expenses low?
Yeah, true. Very nice.
That's the thing you need to remember all the time. So, righto, Kimbo, do you collect GST or do a BAS statement on a quarterly basis?
No.
No, okay, because we're not that big yet.
Yeah, just once a year, because isn't it you've got to earn 50,000 or more or something before you have to?
Once you earn over 74,000, the tax office will want you to register for GST.
Yeah.
You do not have to register if your turnover is less than that, but you can if you want to.
Yeah.
Yep, good. Righto, let's have a bit of a chat about record keeping, and we're going quite well here. So the question becomes, what way do you like to keep your records? Now, I'm happy to fess up and say I'm a bit of a fuddy-duddy, and I do like to keep paper records. In my filing cabinet, I have a folder for each month of the year into which I put all of my receipts and any paper records that are relevant for that month. Okay. I know now that with the likes of Xero and MyOb and I think Reckon, there's facilities there where you can take a photograph of a receipt and drop it into the program, and the program will automatically look at the information on that receipt and allocate the money to the correct account. And then you also have a digital copy of your receipts forever. Okay. And go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that's what I do.
Yeah, wonderful, Kate. And is it just a case you just take a photo with your phone?
Yep.
Yeah.
Take a photo as soon as I oh, sorry. Are you there still?
Yes.
I've just turned my computer off. Yeah, just as soon as I buy something, I sit there in the car and do my accounting on the way home while somebody else drives.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so that's good. And the good thing is, you know, if you get into that habit of as soon as someone hands you a receipt, or as soon as a receipt turns up in the mail, for those of us that still like to get receipts in the mail, to make a digital copy of it straight away is good practice, because then it doesn't matter if the paper copy goes missing, you've got a record of it to prove to the tax office that you've had that expense. Okay. With regard to, as I was saying to Kate when we first started, I wrote my own accounting program 15 or 20 odd years ago in Excel, and I'm quite wedded to it. So I haven't decided yet to go down the road of purchasing a cloud-based accounting program, because the minimum cost would be about $30 a month. So that's $360 a year. And at this stage of my business career, I can't justify spending that sort of money on an accounting program when I'm able to do it quite well with Excel. If you're someone that's not excited about doing your own accounting like that, then I heartily recommend you look at using a bookkeeper. If your budget is not going to allow you to do that from the get-go, then you might just have to, take the bull by the horns and factor in some accounting or cash flow management time each week for a couple of hours, and just sit down and do the recording. You could do it in paper, as I know Kim and I have talked about doing it on paper, just as she's very new to owning her own business. So we're using that to minimise her expenses. And as far as I'm aware, it's working quite well for her, which is good.
Yes.
And then over time, as the business grows and she grows in confidence in recording and managing figures, she may elect to move to doing electronic accounting. As far as I'm aware, the tax office, they don't really care what you do with record keeping, just so long as you can back up all of the things that you've said in your tax return.
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions about record keeping? No, that's good. That's good. And I think you have to, at this stage, I think you must keep your business records for 5 years after you lodge a tax return. I think it used to be 7, but now it's 5. And if you ever go into what's the accounting, what's the thing, is it MyGov? If you go into the MyGov app and you look back through your details, all of your records are stored in there for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
So, it's a case that they really only want you to keep the records for 5 or 7 years, but they certainly never throw the records away. Righto, so let's have a look about time frames. We're going quite well here, so that's good. Record keeping time frames. Okay. So when I sit down with people and we talk about business management and recording, I heartily recommend to people that they have their business figures up to date by about the 7th day of the new month. And the reason that I say that is that then, all things being equal, you're going to have 3 weeks to make any repairs isn't the wrong, but to make any changes that you need to change before the end of the 2nd month. So to give you an example, let's say I budgeted to earn $1,000 worth of income this month, and my expenses I've budgeted at $800. Okay, and we did that when we did the budget some months ago or a year ago for the year ahead. So we're getting to the end of June, and I update my figures, and I have all my figures, my actual figures for the month of June completed by the 3rd of July. And I see to my horror that my expenses are $800, so that's as planned, but my income is only $800 and I'm $200 short. Okay. If I get my figures and my records up to date early in the new month, I can make a plan to remedy that. And I may have planned to have $1,000 worth of income from July, But for me to stay on track, I really need to earn that $1,000 and another 200 to make up the shortfall for the past month. If I wait till the end of July to get my June figures sorted out, I've missed a whole month of opportunity. And it's only by having your figures up to date are you going to be aware of how close to or how far away from your budget you really are. Okay, so that's why it's extremely important to keep your figures up to date and keep them as up to date as possible.
I might check out here. Sorry.
All right, mate. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you so much. Do we get emailed like some of the
Yes, I'll ask our office manager Eden to send people a copy of the recording.
Yeah, send a copy of the recording or the slides.
Okay, that'll be good.
All right. If not, it's okay.
Okay, thanks for tuning in.
All right, thanks for that. See ya.
So then keeping your figures up to date. So as a manager, you're aware of what's going on. That's why it's critically important for these timeframes. Now, also with the time frame from a tax point of view, as I understand it, you have until about the 16th of May next year to complete a tax return. Okay. For us smaller business operators, I'd encourage you to get it to the accountant as quickly as you possibly can, simply because if you're up for a return, you want that money pretty quickly. Okay, it's not going to do you any good leaving that money with the tax office and for you to deciding in October or November, gee, I better get my figures into the accountant so I can get that return, because that's money you could be using to build the business. Okay. Also, with regard to doing your BAS statements, I still do BAS on a paper basis. So sometime early in July, I will get the blank BAS statement from the tax office for the period ended the 30th of June, and I'll have to submit that to the tax office by the 26th or the 27th of July. So they usually give you about 3 or 4 weeks after the end of a quarter with which to fill that paperwork in. If you don't do it in that time, they will send you a nasty letter and scold you, just like a naughty school child if you haven't done it. And if you do it frequently enough, they may want you to explain what the problem is. A lot of small business people are very happy to do BAS on a regular basis, and you know, if you don't need to claim back the money that you're spending in GST, then that might work for you. And none of the stuff I'm saying here is I'm saying it because I want to lumber you with paperwork to do. I'm saying it because I want you to be as successful as a business person as you can be, and this is just the meat and potatoes work that we have to do when we're self-employed.
Yep.
Also, if you're willing or you wish to use an accountant to prep your figures each year, I heartily recommend that you meet with your accountant at least once a year, possibly 2 or 3 times, just so that they're aware of what's going on in the business. And remember, their job is to professionally manage your interaction with the tax office, and it's their job to know everything about tax that affects you. And because it changes on a regular basis and there is so much information to get through, it's very, very important that you communicate with your accountant regularly. And like, I reached out to my accountant in early May, and I said, look, my figures are going to be up to date by the middle of May. As soon as they're up to date, I'll send them to you so you can tell me how much tax I'm up for. He was very good. He turned that letter around, and by about the 25th of May, I knew that how much tax I was up for, how much tax Kim was up for, how much extra super we could have paid to reduce our tax, and if we wanted to buy any more equipment, how much we could spend. So it's looking like for the year ahead, my wife and I are both going to get refunds, which we're quite happy about. And then, so it was good. Had I not have done that, I could have ended up paying the tax of a $6,000 or $7,000 extra tax.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I don't want to do that. It's not that I don't like the tax office. It's just that money is too important because my wife and I can use it in our business.
Yeah. Too bloody hard to come across just to give it away.
It is, Kate, and that's the whole thing with small business. It's not a case of just going out and working bloody hard day after day after day, because sooner or later you won't be able to work as hard as you do now.
Yeah.
So having some awareness of the cash flow and why it's really important is jolly important. Please don't feel that you're all at sea with this. It's not, and I'm not saying it as someone that's had years of experience. It's the fact that we don't have to make this complicated. It can be quite simple and straightforward. And if it is simple and straightforward, you're going to enjoy it more than if it is complicated.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I'll enjoy it, Jason, but I'll do it.
Okay, well, that's good, mate. That's good. You know, and if you want to grow the business, as I know you do, and there's goals and dreams that you have as a business owner, this is definitely one way to help you get there sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Righto, so let's talk about reviewing the figures. We've jumped around a little bit today, but there's no hard feelings about that. Okay, so when we talk about reviewing the figures, you'll most likely have done this as part of tax preparation. I really, really encourage you, when you sit down and update your figures for the month that is just finished, that's a really good time to sit down and say, well, what was the income for the month? What was the expenses for the month? Am I happy about that? If I am happy about it, well and good. If I'm not happy about it, what am I going to do about it? Okay. And the answer is I'll just work harder next month. That's not the right answer. It's part of the answer, but it's not the right answer. Having a really deep awareness of where the expenses are going and why they're there in the business is very, very important. So to give you an example, it's now June. So back in October, just before we went and had our annual holiday last year, I went onto Amazon and I bought about 5 books that I'd been wanting to buy for a long time. And for some reason, I'd accidentally clicked on Amazon Prime, and now they're debiting my credit card for $6.90 a month, whether I use them or not. Mm-hmm. Okay. So over the course of the year, that's $84. Okay. Now, unless I buy something off Amazon, I've wasted that money. And because I was a bit slow in keeping the figures up to date back in January and February, I didn't really understand until I sat down and looked at numbers in March that I'd clicked on Amazon Prime and this money was leaving my account that isn't doing me any good at all.
Yeah.
Had I not have sat down and crunched the numbers or looked at the numbers and reviewed the figures, I might not have known that was happening until sometime later in the year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's why it's really important that you need to understand what's really going on in your business, you know, and mundane things like, have you got the best phone plan that's available, right? Are you getting the cheapest electricity that you possibly can get? You know, if I don't service my car on a regular basis, what sort of effect is that going to have on fuel consumption? And if you're a person that's doing a lot of kilometres, that could be really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so sitting down and reviewing the figures, it's hellishly important so that you develop an awareness of where the money's going and why it's going there. Okay, so let's have a look. We're doing quite well here, as I said. Righto, so we had the one there about regular business meetings. As I said, your accountant is a very, very important person in your business, and I recommend you meet with them at least once a year at the very least, but preferably 2 or 3 times. I'm not saying that because I want to spend your money, for you. I'm saying it because as business conditions change, interest rates aren't going to stop going up anytime soon. Our business input costs aren't going to stop going up anytime soon. So you need to make sure you're across this, and importantly, from a tax point of view, are you paying the right amount of tax? And if not, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, meeting with your insurance broker at least once a year is very important today to make sure that you have the right amount of insurance, not too much, pardon me, and not too little. And whilst you might not need a solicitor every year, keeping in touch with them and making sure they understand what's going on in your business can be very beneficial. I'm not saying you should do it. I guess I am saying that, you know, whilst you might be able to afford it, you might want to talk to your solicitor more often than, you know, every 3 or 4 years. Then the solicitor is nowhere near as important as the accountant and the insurance broker, but they're still part of your business team.
So, Jason, I have never spoken to a solicitor in my 41 years.
Yes, okay, so that's good, Kate, and that's okay. That's okay. But if the time comes where, so it's good on one hand because you've never had to deal with one, but the rub is one day you may need to.
Yeah. So you get it beforehand, or should I be?
Yeah, look, it's all right to go and find one when you need one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a case that if you already have one at hand, it's a bit like an accountant. If you have a good relationship with your accountant, you feel they're a decent person that's sincerely interested in you and your business, then there's someone that you want to do business with. If you find that there's someone that's not interested in your business and that they're a bit slovenly when it comes to communicating with you and the relationship isn't a cheerful and a rosy one, then you might not want to do business with them.
Yeah.
You know, and look, I know out there in the Burnett, it's not that you guys are over supplied with solicitors.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a case of, and again, it's not about spending your money for no good reason. It's about making sure you know who your business team is, and what those people can do to help you. And if it's the case, Kate, that, you know, mum and dad decided, well, they're going to retire and they want you to buy the family house off them, you'll need a solicitor for that activity.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
If you to look into who I would get in the case of needing one. Yeah.
If you wanted to enter into a year-long contract with one of the schools to deliver the therapy services that you do, you might want to get a solicitor to look at that just so that your best interests are covered.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Cool.
Just things like that. And in Kim's situation where she's a tenant in her premises, it would probably in Kim's best interests to get a solicitor to look at the agreement at some stage, so we know that, you know, she can't turn up tomorrow and find she's been locked out with no good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I don't have one anyway.
No. Okay. Oh, that's right. Sorry, you don't either. Okay.
Yeah.
And it may well be the case, Kim, as the business grows and gets better, and you're feeling like you want to make this a permanent arrangement, it might then be an opportune time to speak to a solicitor to say, I want to make this a permanent arrangement with my landlord. What can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good day. Righto, guys. So look, gee, we've done very well. So there we are. We're at question time. So have you guys got any questions for me?
I did have one, but I've forgotten it. I didn't write it down.
Okay. Well, that's all right. That's okay.
Click back 2 slides for us, Jason, just to see.
That one?
No, go back one more.
That one?
No, didn't help. Sorry.
Okay, well, I'll go back another one. Record keeping, superannuation.
Yeah, no, too far.
Maximising deductions, reviewing figures. regular planning or questions?
Yeah, no, I think those later ones are probably just things that I need to aim for in the next year, because this year.
Yes, guys. Look, and that's good. Thank you for sharing that, Kate. We were a bit tardy. We really should have run this workshop back in May, okay? Because the likelihood that you're going to get everything perfect for your accountant by this time next Friday is low.
Mm-hmm.
I respect that, because we're all business people and there's a hell of a lot of things we've got to do. But the rub is, do the very best you can this financial year, but then come the 1st of July, at least you've got more of an awareness of how things should look, so that next year can be even more successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So as I said at the beginning, Kim wasn't there at the beginning, but this is one of the last workshops we're doing for the Business Leap program, because the Business Leap program comes to a finish next Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And we're not running forward with the program next year. However, having said that, I'm still going to be with Regional Business HQ, and we're working on some other programs we've got for small business outreach and mentoring, and we'll be letting everyone know about that going forward. Having said that, you guys have still got my phone number, so I'm quite happy to take questions at an odd time to help you out, because personally, for me, it's very important that my fellow business operators have someone to talk to if they've got some odd questions or they need some advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. That's really nice to know, because you're very good to speak.
I know how challenging it can be in self-employment, and I know that there's often times we'll need to hear things that we're not prepared to actually receive.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's never a case of telling you off. It's a case of, look, guys, we've got to make a decision here, and you mightn't want to do it, but you're going to have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's very important to me that anyone that chooses self-employment is more successful than they've ever dreamt possible, because we've all worked in jobs we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a time where you've just had enough of that. And, you know, respectively, both of you ladies have seen opportunities, and you're having a red hot go at making them work. So, you know, if there's anything I can say or do to help you with that, I'm very happy to do so.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jason.
Righto, ladies. Thanks for that. Kim, thank you for your phone call the other day. I'm going to ring you back probably in a little while. I've just got to tidy up a few things at this end. But we'll have a chat later today, and I'll get Eden to send out a copy of the workshop, so you can go back and review it if you want to. And let's stay in touch.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Righto, ladies. Have a good day. Thanks for tuning in.
You too. Bye.
See you then. Bye-bye.